Tea time.
Welcome everybody! Souldin of the Grin Bros here, and it's time for another episode of Tea Time. Now then, to explain, this tea is part of my Christmas calendar teas, which I had once again this year. The reason I feel I need to explain it in what is actually the last of the teas that I'll be drinking for this of the Christmas 24 Days of Tea Christmas calendar is because of the fact that this will be the first of these Christmas calendar tea times that actually get uploaded, because today's topic is one that has to be uploaded before the end of the year. So, ironically, the last of the calendar teas is the first one that you'll be finding out. So, look forward to many Christmas calendar-based tea times. But for now, let's get on to the last tea of the set, the tea on Christmas Eve. Christmas Cookie Infusion, a black tea. Brew time is 2 to 5 minutes, and as with all of the teas in this Christmas tea calendar of 24 Days of Tea, it's the brand is Darvilles of Windsor. Information on it, it doesn't provide any information, so I've had to research this myself and gather it from various sources and just kind of clump it together. A good light tea that is deliciously sweet. Its sweet, zesty, spicy and fruity taste will bring about feelings of Christmas. And that should do it for the description, and then I shall be trying out the tea later. Anyway, as for why, you'll probably be seeing this tea time on New Year's Eve, on the, is it the 31st or the 30th? Yeah, the 31st of December, is because it's my, as per every year, tea time on my top 6 most anticipated games of the next year. In this case, my top 6 most anticipated games of 2020. Now, it's been rather interesting trying to think of this list because I've been trying to spoil myself less on games, so I haven't actually got like a huge amount of research done on the games that make up my top 6 most anticipated games. So it's more a case that I've seen enough to be interested in them. So I can't recall all the details because I'm trying to forget some of the details I've seen so I don't spoil myself. You know, I've seen plenty of the details of these games, but it's a case of, you know, they're not as fresh in my memory, so that when I do play them, they'll become fresh. And to be fair, because of that, you know, it was actually a little harder time trying to think of what my top 6 anticipated games were. I've had a few others that were a bit unclear, and to be fair, quite a few of these I'm not even sure on the release date. There's very few confirmed release dates for the games I'm going to be mentioning here. And a few of the games that I was considering were originally 2020 titles. So, and for next year, I'm mostly kind of keeping a keen eye out for E3 in particular to see if they've got sort of new sort of game announcements there that will be of 2020 itself, which may particularly be the case in case the Xbox Series X actually ends up interesting me enough to obtain the system. That could very well likely be a launch day purchase for me, provided the Fable 4 is actually a confirmed reality. Otherwise, it's going to take at least 3 to 5, most likely 5 games on the Xbox Series X to actually make me make the jump. But I should in theory have the money available if I am so tempted to. In any case, let's begin. Number 6, my 6th most anticipated game of 2020, currently stands as Trials of Mana for the Nintendo Switch. I don't believe it's available on any other system, but I'm pretty sure it's on Nintendo Switch. A remake of the 3rd entry in the Secret of Mana series. I think it's Senetsu no Dena something. Benditsu or something like that. I think that's the name of the Mana series in Japan. But yeah, it's the 3rd entry of the Mana series, which until the recent Secret of Mana compilation, sort of trilogy compilation, never actually came out overseas, and has often been held up as a cult classic, sort of really groundbreaking for the SNES. You know, really pushing the SNES to its limits. And the reason Trials of Mana, despite looking really cool, having a lot of the interesting things that I've heard about from Secrets of Mana 3, such as the sort of, I think it's 6 or 7, I think it's 7 different playable characters, and you get to choose 2 allies, and so there's like tons of combinations and tons of different pathways. You get to do sort of different sort of ranking sort of class systems, so like, I guess not an exact comparison, but say you're a warrior, you can go paladin to dark knight. Of course, I'm not sure if that's an exact situation, but it's basically like that. You know, your character has a class, and then they can go into 2 different classes, and it'll be different for each character and stuff like that. So there's a ton of variety, a huge amount of replayability, and it's done in the remake is like full-on remake. Before it used to be kind of top-down Zelda-esque, now it's behind-the-shoulder Ocarina of Time 3D Zelda-esque. Funny how it keeps the Zelda inspiration sort of thing. Fight giant bosses and all that, and of course you get 2 allies, of which you get to choose 2 allies, so again, tons of combinations. But the reason why it's only 6 on my list, despite looking really cool, is because I've got a mixed reception to the Mana series. I've played 2 Mana titles. They were Secret of Mana, the first one, on the SNES via the SNES Mini, and Children of Mana on the Nintendo DS. Secret of Mana is held up as a beloved classic. Children of Mana is said to be a black sheep of the series and a low point for it altogether. I loved Children of Mana. That was an amazing game. I found Secret of Mana very boring and odd and sluggish, and I played it with my friend, and although it was cool having the co-op thing, it wasn't really all that great. So I have mixed opinions. The Mana entry that's apparently really highly regarded, I'm not a fan of, but the Mana series that is often criticised, I hold up really highly. So how Trials of Mana is going to be received by me, I'm not sure, but it is a pretty extensive remake which does change things up, so maybe it'll be such a different experience that its connection to the original Secret of Mana won't really matter too much in terms of, how it plays sort of thing, because it'll be such a fresh experience, and, who knows. But again, it's got a lot going for it. If I didn't know it was part of the Mana series, I'd be excited for it entirely, so that's why it's number 6 on this list. Number 5 here has a slight advantage because, and quite a few of these have an advantage of being entries that I've played previously, being new entries in series I've actually played before, because number 5 is Shantae and the 7 Sirens. Kind of a 29 release when you get down to it, because it released as part 1 of it released on Apple Arcade, I believe it was. Some sort of Apple TV servicing thing. The Way Forward seems to have an odd relationship with Apple. Again, I believe it's Apple. I'll put up the correct one if I'm wrong, but because they also had a exclusive Apple Watch Shantae game where Bolo was the protagonist, so yeah, odd that. But Shantae and the 7 Sirens is a new entry in the Shantae series, combining the kind of the sort of more interesting Metroidvania gameplay and openness of Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, along with the amazing art style of Shantae Half Genie Hero. So there looks to be combining a lot of the bear aspects from each game. And so that has me excited. The Shantae series is full of charm and wonder. And whilst admittedly I've played the first game, didn't enjoy it, but Shantae and the Pirate's Curse and Shantae Half Genie Hero were a ton of fun. There are frustrating elements to it in terms of some of the additional content in it, but it was still fun, and they've always been a wonderful series in terms of the characters and such, and so I look forward to trying out this new entry of the Shantae series. It's got animated cutscenes by Trigger, I believe it was, which is really impressive, and yeah, it looks bright, colourful, wonderful, and looks to be combining a lot of the best elements of the Shantae series altogether, so I'm really excited for a new entry within the Shantae series. Again, it's strange though, it's a little bit lower on my list because I haven't heard too much about it. I know that it released as an Apple Arcade Part 1 sort of thing, but I didn't even notice that for quite a while. I was really excited about the initial announcement itself, and then it kind of seemed to go quiet, and I kind of not really had a good sort of ear out on the information. Maybe it's just the sites I'm on which haven't been keeping track of it. Number 4 on my list was actually the game I was most impressed by at E3 2019, which is funny because it was actually revealed at E3 2018. I just never noticed it until then. And E3 2019, it wasn't even a game that was particularly highlighted, but I saw it later for Silicon Era, and I was thinking to myself, why was this not featured in any of the Nintendo Directs? This would have easily been in my reaction videos, my E3 reaction videos, my number 1 game. And so ultimately, it became my number 1 most interested game from E3 2019, and that's Hakuna of Rice and Ruin, a game that was originally going to be a winter this year, but ended up being pushed back. And from what I've seen, to basically explain it, it is Remastered the Demon Blade combined with Rune Factory / Harvest Moon, which is a combination I'd never have considered, and it is absolutely amazing. You have a farming... I believe the story goes is that you're a goddess, so I guess there's kind of a bit of an Okami vibe here. You're a goddess and you're basically spoiled. You get punished by being sent down to an island where you have to help the farming inhabitants as a harvest goddess. And so you have to help out tend the fields, and the more the fields and crops, the better the villagers are, and the better the farm itself and the crops and all that are, the more powerful and more abilities you get access to as a goddess. And then you also have to help out the villagers by protecting them from the monsters who are trying to attack the farm, in Muramaster the Demon style 2D sort of gameplay. You've got your light attacks, your heavy attacks, do really cool sort of hack and slash combos. So yeah, it's sort of hack and slash plus farming, and that manages to blend together so well and looks so fantastic, and it's full of a lot of the sort of very Shinto sort of style, the goddesses and gods sort of thing. Again, that's why I mentioned Kokami. It's got those sort of Kami-esque sort of aesthetic to it, and that is really cool. Apparently it's being by a pretty small development team as well, so it just makes it even more impressive. If I had to pick a digital game, so far it's the number 1 digital game I would get, but I'm hoping it will get a physical release. But yeah, Hakuna of Rice and Ruin was my number 1 game of E3 2019, and so it's number 4 for my most anticipated title. And the reason it's only number 4 is because the others have an unfair advantage of being games I've played other entries of. in the case of number 3 here, is literally a case that I've already played the game, because this third entry is Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered Edition. Now, the reason this one is only number 3, despite being a game I'm super looking forward to, is the fact that I'm actually not buying the game, from what I've gathered. The way apparently there's not really local co-op if you have 2 separate versions of the game, but you can do local co-op if only one person has a copy of the game. From what I've heard. As such, me and Rafi will be playing on the same system. I don't need to digitally download it because I'll just be playing on Rafi's file via natural co-op. But apparently you can't do separate Switch co-op. From what I've heard, this could have changed. It's either local co-op on the same Switch or it is online play. In any case, it's a remaster of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, which was a ton of fun. They've got new skins, new bosses, sort of EX modes as it were, and they've upped the graphics and added online capabilities and voice acting. And even without all that stuff, it'll be just great just playing through Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles games. Sure, there were some rough spots to it. There was sort of ways you could go about the game which could end up locking you in it forever. So you couldn't even progress at all. And there were elements that could have been improved. I do think that Final Fantasy's, I believe it was Echoes of Time. Echoes of Time, I believe it was. I think that was generally the better one. But I can understand why Crystal Chronicles has a preference to it, and the travelling theme to it, travelling about in a caravan, is certainly unique to a game and certainly has a better feeling overall to it in terms of the atmosphere you want to evoke from it. The idea of travelling together in a caravan is a really cool concept, which sadly they never really explored. They were originally looking to explore that in a Wii Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles pitch, a sequel to it. But, where it looked like you would actually be able to actually do action on the caravan itself. But that never came to be. But Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered Edition looks lovely, and it'll be a great co-op game to play with Rafi. Maybe even a potential Grin Brothers recording for all we know. Then, number 2! Now, number 2 is only number 2 because I have no idea if it is releasing next year. It is, however, releasing in Japan next year, definitely. If it goes the way of a previous 3DS entry it had, then it will release early this year and then towards December of sort of October to December time of next year sort of thing, of the same year that it was released in. And this game is a new entry of a series I've enjoyed ever since I went to Japan and played it on my PSP, and that is Hatsune Miku Project Diva Megamix. I really like Hatsune Miku. I'm surprisingly apt to quite a few rhythm games. It's one of those genres that I like, but I don't really play many of, like pinball games as well. But I end up trying to buy the Vocaloid games where I can, preferably on systems I prefer. And this one is available on Switch, so I can get that rather than getting on PS4. In fact, from what I hear, it's exclusive to Switch on the basis that they wanted to bring it back to its handheld roots, because Hatsune Miku was always a handheld game, the Project Diva series. And the Switch is, of course, a handheld console hybrid, so it made sense to have it on the Switch. Not too quite so keen on some of the Joy-Con mode. Doesn't look nearly as good as, say, the Touch mode that the 3DS version, 3DS Project Diva game had. But we'll see how it goes. Regardless, it will have a ton of Vocaloid songs that I'll adore hearing to, and a ton of the rhythm action. It does also apparently have the Hellish Nightmare song that was on the 3DS entry that was nearly impossible to perfect. I'm not sure how to get it perfected, but it was brutal, and I swore so much trying to do it. But yeah, I like the Project Diva games. I like Vocaloid. In my bag I've kept for well over 5 years now, and it's falling to bits, is a Vocaloid bag. My wallet, which is also falling to bits by now, is a Vocaloid wallet. So yeah, big fan, and really love the games. Now then, before I get on to my number 1 most anticipated game of 2020, I shall try out this Christmas cookie tea. It's a nice crimson colour. The last tea I also had off recording was also a red colour. Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa. This is apparently a black tea. It smells like a chai. It's a black tea which smells like a chai. Super citrusy, super sweet. Yeah, super citrusy, super sweet, despite how its smell and look gets you completely different impressions. It doesn't look like it'd be sweet. It doesn't look like it doesn't smell like it'd be sweet, but oh gosh, it is. Just how much orange does this have? I'm sure it must have orange in it. It was hard finding a tea list of it, which actually had a specific list of ingredients, because of course each different tea brand will have slightly different ingredients added to it. But gosh, more of an orange tea than the orange peel tea. And there's definitely some other citrusy fruits in it as well. Very, I'm sure I can taste some berries. I wouldn't be able to put my tongue onto which one. The orange and maybe lemon or lime added to it as well? Nah, that'd be sour. Either case, very nice. The flavour's immediate. Travels quite well down the tongue. Gets weak quite quickly, but it's a good instant flavour. A very sort of burst sort of thing. And it leaves an impression, even if the flavour does fizzle up quite quickly. But it travels decently well enough. It's actually so flavoursome, I have to swallow it down pretty quickly because it is so overwhelming. Oh, wow. And I only brewed this for 4 minutes, not even the full 5 minutes, so wow. In any case, that was the Christmas cookie tea. And so now I shall get on to my number one most anticipated game of 2020, which admittedly is only above number 2, is kind of only above number 2 and 3 for particular reasons, holding back number 3 and 2, but at the same time, number 1 has a lot to stand on its own feet, because it is a sequel to potentially my favourite Xbox One game, or is the game currently competing for the spot of my favourite Xbox One game alongside one other. It's kind of tied for which one is the number 1 favourite Xbox One game, but this sequel could end up usurping it. For this is the sequel of Ori and the Blind Forest, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I cheered like mad when Microsoft revealed this. Ori and the Blind Forest was an absolutely magical game. It was breathtaking. It was beautiful. It was, and that was just in terms of the presentation, the sort of art style and everything. And yet, despite that, the gameplay is so cool. Really cool Metroidvania game with lush locations and tons of action to it. It's surprisingly fast-paced and frantic. I mean, again, you've got like speedrun options when you complete it. And a lot of tear-jerking moments in the way it presents little scenes, and all without any sort of dialogue. There is dialogue, but it's in an incomprehensible language, which I love that part in games. I don't really care too much for everything having proper voice acting. The Banjo-Kazooie does well enough, And Banjo-Kazooie had... And Ori and the Blind Forest had a great sort of touch of that. And Ori and the Will of the Wisps looks to be following through on a lot of the sort of cool factors of Ori in the series, along with introducing, from the looks of it, a lengthier game with more locations, as well as more little things to do. And even got a little owl buddy to help you out, which is pretty cool given the ending of Ori and the Blind Forest. And there's just a lot which looks like it's expanding upon in Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Even if it never actually gets better, even if it's just, say, more of the same... It's more of the same of an absolutely magical, amazing game, so I don't mind that at all. But I also look forward to see what is expanded and enhanced in this new entry. It's actually going to be a bigger jump for me because I never actually played the definitive edition of Ori and the Blind Forest. They had Ori and the Blind Forest, Ori and the Blind Forest definitive edition, but I'm jumping over that definitive edition and going straight into Ori and the Will of the Wisp on the Xbox One, and I'm really looking forward to it in 2020. It was actually I'm pretty sure it was actually in my anticipated games of last year as well, because I thought it was going to come out this year, but no, 2020. So then, those are my top 6 most anticipated games of 2020. Feel free to tell me what games are you anticipating in 2020. Do you share any in common with me? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this tea time, as well as what games you're interested in. Until then though, I hope you enjoyed this tea time, and cheerio! Let's look forward to a good gaming year in 2020.